Lena Carter stared out of the viewport as the massive Xylarian Academy station came into view. It was unlike anything she had ever seen. Towering structures of shimmering metal, vast docking bays filled with starships of every imaginable shape, and size and glowing energy conduits running across the station like veins. Her stomach fluttered with a mix of excitement and nervousness. "Breathe, Lena," she whispered to herself. "You're just an exchange student. You'll fit in, somehow." She adjusted the straps of her backpack and followed the delegation of alien instructors into the station. The hallway was enormous, with walls that seemed to shift color slightly as they absorbed and reflected the light. Several alien species moved around her, some tall and slender with long limbs, others small and covered in iridescent scales, all looking at her with curiosity. Lena felt the weight of every gaze. Humans were rare here. She had read about the Xylarian Alliance in her Earth textbooks, but seeing it in person was overwhelming. These creatures were not only technologically advanced, they moved with a confidence Lena had never encountered among humans. "Welcome, Lena Carter, to the Xylarian Academy," said a voice from behind her. She turned to see her assigned guide, a tall blue-skinned alien with multiple eyes and delicate fin-like appendages on his head. "I am Vorin. I will show you your quarters and introduce you to the instructors." "Thank you," Lena said, trying to keep her voice steady. Her heart raced. As they walked through the station, Lena noticed other students practicing various exercises in zero-gravity chambers or piloting small fighter drones through obstacle courses. Each alien moved with perfect control, showing skill and precision that made Lena feel clumsy just watching them. "You'll be joining the Tactical Studies program," Vorin explained. "It is unusual for a human to enroll, but we are curious about your species' potential." Lena tried not to frown at the comment. She had heard stories about how humans were often underestimated here, dismissed as fragile and unpredictable. Some called humans reckless creatures of chance. That didn't matter to her. She wanted to prove that humans could think, adapt, and survive in situations that even the most advanced aliens struggled with. Her quarters were modest but comfortable. A small bed, a desk with a holographic interface, and a viewport overlooking the station's docking bay. Lena unpacked her belongings slowly, running her fingers over a photo of her family back on Earth. She missed them, of course, but she had a mission now, to survive and learn in a world that seemed designed to test her limits. Later, she attended her first orientation session in a massive hall filled with students and instructors. The room buzzed with alien chatter, clicking, and musical tones. A holographic projection of the Academy commander appeared at the front, an imposing figure covered in silver armor. "Students of the Xylarian Academy," the commander said. His voice was deep and resonant. "You are here to train, to grow, and to protect the Alliance. Remember, intelligence alone is not enough. Courage, adaptability, and teamwork are essential, especially when facing enemies who do not follow our rules." Lena's eyes scanned the room, taking in her peers. Most of them were staring at her. A few whispered to each other in languages she couldn't understand. She felt their skepticism, their doubt. She knew she would have to earn respect the hard way. Classes began the next day. Lena struggled at first, not because of intelligence, but because the technology and concepts were so different from anything on Earth. She fumbled with holographic control panels, miscalculated drone trajectories, and accidentally triggered a warning signal during a simulation exercise. "Careful, human," one of her instructors, a green-skinned alien with 4 arms, said sharply. "Precision is not optional here." "Yes, sir," Lena replied, hiding her frustration. She didn't argue. Instead, she spent hours in the lab, learning the systems, studying alien tactics, and practicing until her movements were smoother. Despite her efforts, the alien students still looked at her with doubt. During exercises, they assumed she would fail. Lena noticed the looks of surprise when she occasionally succeeded, but she didn't let it distract her. She had to be ready for what was coming, though she didn't yet know that what was coming would arrive far sooner than expected. One evening, while Lena was studying navigation charts in her quarters, an alarm blared through the station. Red lights flashed, and a deep siren echoed through the hallways. "Code Red," All personnel report to their stations. Voron's voice came over the communicator. This is not a drill. Lena's heart leapt into her throat. She had read about attacks before. The Xylarian Academy had been targeted in past conflicts, but she had never imagined experiencing one firsthand. She rushed to the nearest command, bridge, joining a crowd of students and instructors already gathering. The bridge was a hive of activity, with holographic screens showing incoming enemy vessels approaching at high speed. The senior commander barked orders, moving from station to station, directing defensive formations. Lena watched in awe and fear. The aliens were highly skilled, but the enemy was fast and unpredictable. Several alien ships were already taking heavy damage. Human, stay back, one officer shouted at her. This is not your place. But Lena didn't move. She observed. Something in her mind clicked. Patterns in the enemy's approach, timings in their attacks, weaknesses in their formation. She hesitated only a moment before speaking up. Sir, she said, her voice trembling slightly, if we reposition the interceptors to cover the flanks instead of the front, we can force their ships into a trap and protect the station better. The officer frowned. And you are? I'm Lena Carter, exchange student. But please consider this. It could save lives. There was a long pause. The commander, watching from the main console, considered her words. Then, with a sharp nod, he ordered a test maneuver. The interceptors shifted positions. Lena held her breath. The enemy ships reacted exactly as she predicted, funneling themselves into a zone where Xylarian cannons had optimal firing angles. Several enemy ships were disabled in a few precise strikes. Gasps echoed through the bridge. Lena's heart pounded. She had done it. Just a human, yes, but she had made a difference. Remarkable, the commander said, his eyes narrowing thoughtfully. The human has insight. We will observe further. Though she received no formal praise, Lena felt a quiet sense of accomplishment. The alien students and instructors had seen what she could do. Doubt still lingered, but for the first time, respect, or at least curiosity, flashed in their eyes. As the alarm subsided and the station's defenses regrouped, Lena returned to her quarters. She collapsed onto the bed, exhausted but exhilarated. She realized something vital. Humans were underestimated, not because they were weak, but because they thought differently. That difference, if used wisely, could change outcomes even in the most advanced battles. Outside the viewport, the stars stretched endlessly, peaceful and distant, yet Lena knew the universe was more dangerous than she had imagined. And somewhere out there, a larger threat loomed. But for the first time she felt ready, not just to survive, but to act, to lead, to prove that a human could stand among the galaxy's most powerful beings. She smiled faintly, whispering to herself, I may be just an exchange student, but I am not powerless. Not ever. And with that thought, Lena prepared herself for the challenges she didn't yet know were coming. Challenges that would test her courage, her mind, and ultimately, the very limits of what a human could achieve in a universe that had always underestimated her kind. The following morning, Lena awoke to the hum of the station's engines. She could still feel the tension from the previous day's alert, the memory of the enemy ships flashing across the viewport. But the day ahead promised no rest. The academy had scheduled a full day of training exercises, and Lena needed to focus. She refused to let nerves control her. She moved quickly through the hallways, passing alien students who cast curious glances in her direction. Some whispered to each other. Others pretended not to notice. She had learned that attention, even when it felt intimidating, could be a tool. Lena smiled faintly to herself. In the training chamber, holographic displays floated mid-air, showing star systems, tactical grids, and simulated enemy ships. Lena worked alongside alien cadets in coordinated exercises, learning the patterns of their ships, understanding alien communication signals, and practicing evasive maneuvers. She struggled at first, but slowly her human intuition began to complement her new skills. Human, Voron said as he approached. Your reflexes are unusual, efficient though untrained. Keep observing. Your instincts may serve you well. Lena nodded, silently thankful. She didn't fully understand the compliment, but she sensed it was rare coming from an alien instructor. Suddenly, alarms blared across the station. Red lights flooded the corridors once more, echoing through the training chamber. The hall shook slightly as a distant impact resonated through the station. "Not again," muttered one of the alien students, his tone a mixture of fear and frustration. "Code Black," the chamber's speaker system announced. "All personnel to battle stations. Hostile fleet detected approaching the outer colonies." Chaos erupted. Lena's heart raced as she sprinted toward the nearest command hub, along with dozens of other cadets and instructors. The command bridge was already a storm of activity. Screens showed dozens of enemy ships moving in formation toward the outer colonies, and Xylarian fleet vessels scrambled to intercept. The senior officers barked orders with precise efficiency. Every crew member had a task. Every sensor monitored the incoming threat. Lena felt out of place, but her mind was sharp. She began scanning the enemy's movements, noticing subtle irregularities in their formation, timing gaps, inconsistent flight paths, and vulnerable flanks that even the officers seemed to overlook. An officer noticed her staring at the tactical grid and snapped, "Human, stay at your station. You are not authorized to make decisions." Lena clenched her fists but did not speak. Instead, she focused on the patterns. The enemy fleet wasn't moving randomly. They were following a predictable rhythm that could be exploited if someone acted fast. The battle began. Energy beams streaked across the void. Missiles launched and fighter drones weaved through the chaos. The outer colonies transmitted distress signals as the enemy approached. Lena's pulse quickened. She realized that without intervention, the colonies could be overwhelmed. "Sir," Lena finally said, stepping forward despite the officer's glare, "if we reposition the fleet slightly to the left and concentrate fire on the ships in the second wave, we can trap their advance. I've analyzed their movement patterns. They're predictable in short bursts." The officer opened his mouth, ready to object, but the senior commander raised a hand, signaling him to stop. He looked at Lena carefully, then at the holographic display. After a moment of tense silence, he nodded. "Execute the maneuver," he ordered. The fleet shifted. Lena's stomach clenched as she watched. The enemy ships reacted exactly as she predicted. They funneled into a zone where Xylarian cannons had optimal firing angles. Explosions lit up space as several ships were disabled in rapid succession. A cheer erupted on the bridge. The aliens stared at Lena in astonishment. Some shook their heads in disbelief. "A human?" one whispered. The commander's eyes were sharp, calculating. "Your instincts are remarkable," he admitted. "Continue observing. You may yet prove useful." Lena swallowed her surprise and relief. She had only suggested a tactic, yet it had worked flawlessly. Her heart still pounded, but a spark of confidence had been ignited. She could contribute here. Humans might be underestimated, but she had seen firsthand that quick thinking and adaptability mattered, perhaps even more than advanced technology alone. As the battle continued, Lena noticed the enemy preparing a secondary attack. A group of smaller, faster ships were heading straight for the Academy's docking bays. If they struck, they could destroy supply lines and cripple the station's defenses. Lena's mind raced. "Sir, the smaller ships, they're targeting the docking bays." She called out, "If we rotate the defensive drones and fire in a triangular pattern, we can intercept them before they reach the hangars." The officer beside her barked, "And why should we trust the human suggestion?" "Because it works," Lena said simply, pointing to the holographic display where her proposed firing patterns would intersect the enemy's trajectory. The commander, observing silently, nodded. "Do it!" The defense drones shifted instantly, forming a three-point intercept pattern. Lena held her breath. The enemy ships collided with the drones' fire, missiles and energy blasts disabling nearly all of them before they reached the station. The docking bays were safe. A few alien cadets turned to her, eyes wide. One whispered, "That was genius." Another shook his head, muttering, "Impossible for a human to see that." Lena ignored them. There was no time for pride. The battle was far from over. The enemy fleet was larger than they had anticipated, and more ships were advancing toward the outer colonies. Lena noticed that the aliens were following standard protocols, reacting predictably. Her human intuition suggested a bolder strategy, a feint combined with an unexpected ambush. "Sir?" she said, taking a deep breath. If we split the fleet into two groups and have one appear to retreat, the enemy will chase them. Then the second group can hit from behind, cutting off their escape. It will reduce our losses and give us the advantage. The commander studied her for several tense moments. He was clearly weighing risk versus reward. Finally, he made a decision. Proceed as the human suggests. All units follow their orders carefully. Lena's plan worked. The enemy pursued the feigned retreat and the hidden fleet struck from the rear. Explosions and energy beams lit the void, and the enemy ships were forced to retreat in disarray. The outer colonies were saved, and the Academy's fleet had inflicted significant damage on the invading force. The bridge erupted in cheers. Officers clapped each other on the back, and students whispered about the human who had changed the battle. Lena felt a strange mix of exhilaration and disbelief. She had not only contributed, she had led in her own small way, and the result had been decisive. After the battle, the commander summoned her to a private chamber. "Human," he said, voice steady but serious. "You have shown insight, courage, and quick thinking. Your species may have potential the Alliance has long overlooked." Lena bowed slightly. "Thank you, sir. I only did what I could. You did more than that. You helped save lives today. Remember this feeling. It is the first step toward understanding what humans can offer in a galaxy that often underestimates them." Lena left the chamber, her mind racing. She had always known humans were resilient, clever, and adaptable, but seeing it recognized by advanced aliens, seeing her own actions make a tangible difference, was something entirely new. Later, she returned to her quarters and looked out at the stars. The enemy fleet had retreated, but she knew this was only the beginning. The universe was vast, full of threats, challenges, and unknown dangers. And yet, for the first time, Lena felt ready. She was more than an exchange student. She had a purpose. She had proven that even a human, fragile and underestimated, could make a difference in the largest, most advanced war machines in the galaxy. She whispered to herself as she stared into the dark, glittering expanse. "They think I'm just a human, but I can change the outcome of a battle. I can protect lives. I can lead, and I will." Somewhere deep in the station, the enemy fleet was regrouping. Lena didn't know it yet, but they would return, and the next attack would be far more dangerous. But she would be ready. She had learned something critical. Instinct, adaptability, and courage could level the playing field against even the most advanced forces in the galaxy. And humanity, underestimated though it may be, had a role to play. And Lena Carter intended to make sure everyone, human and alien alike, would see that clearly. The calm after the last battle lasted only a few days. Lena Carter returned to her studies, though the whispers and sideways glances from alien cadets and instructors had increased. Some stared in admiration, others with suspicion, but Lena no longer cared. She knew humans could think differently, adapt quickly, and act decisively, qualities the aliens often overlooked. The Academy had scheduled a routine fleet exercise, a simulated attack meant to test strategy and teamwork. Lena was assigned to a minor role, monitoring defensive drones from a small station on the command bridge. She was fine with that. She had learned to observe, to study, and to wait for the right moment to act. Then the simulation became real. The alarms blared violently through the station. Red warning lights filled the hallways. A real enemy fleet, far larger and more aggressive than the previous incursion, had been detected, approaching the outer colonies. Panic spread across the bridge. Experienced officers barked orders frantically, trying to coordinate the Academy's fleet. Lena's heart raced. She had trained for emergencies, but nothing in her studies had prepared her for this level of chaos. Yet her mind immediately scanned the battlefield. Patterns began to emerge. The enemy's fleet formation, the timing of their attacks, and the small but exploitable gaps in their defenses. "Sir," an officer shouted at her, "stay out of the way. This is not your fight." But Lena had seen enough. The enemy ships were faster, more coordinated, and much more dangerous. If the bridge followed standard protocols, they would lose countless lives. She stepped forward, her voice clear despite the panic around her. "We need to split our defensive fleets. Send one group to the front as bait, but hide the other behind the asteroid belt. They'll chase the front fleet and we can strike from the rear." The officer turned toward her, eyes wide. "And who are you to give orders?" "I'm human," Lena replied firmly, "but I've studied their patterns. This works. Trust me." The senior commander, standing tall with a multi-eyed gaze fixed on the holographic display, observed her calmly. For a moment the bridge fell silent. Then the commander spoke, his voice resonant and sharp. "Execute the human strategy. All units follow her instructions." Shock rippled across the bridge. Alien cadets muttered among themselves. Lena felt a mixture of fear and determination. This was her chance not just to survive, but to lead. The fleet moved according to her plan. The front ships feigned retreat, drawing the enemy in exactly as she had predicted. Lena's pulse quickened as the hidden fleet, positioned behind a massive asteroid belt, prepared to strike. Timing was critical. Too early or too late, and the enemy would escape or inflict massive damage. "Steady, steady," Lena whispered to herself, eyes locked on the tactical display. The enemy fleet followed the baited front ships, taking the predictable path Lena had anticipated. As they entered the kill zone, she gave the command for the hidden fleet to engage. Energy beams streaked across the void, striking the enemy ships from an unexpected angle. Explosions erupted in space, and several enemy vessels were disabled instantly. The bridge erupted in cheers. Officers clapped each other on the back, and cadets stared at Lena with disbelief. She barely had time to acknowledge their reactions. The battle was far from over. "Another wave approaching from the north sector," an officer shouted. Lena's eyes darted to the holographic display. The new wave was larger and faster than the previous one. "Sir," she called out, stepping forward once more, "if we rotate the northern fleet in a defensive arc and concentrate fire on their leading ships, we can split their formation and reduce our losses." The commander's eyes narrowed. He weighed the risk, but finally nodded. "Do it." Lena held her breath as the fleet shifted. Her prediction proved correct once again. The enemy formation split, some ships escaping in disarray, others disabled by precise fire from Xylarian cannons. Lena's human intuition had turned the tide yet again. The battle raged on for hours. Lena moved between stations on the bridge, coordinating defense drones, adjusting interceptor paths, and anticipating enemy maneuvers. Every decision she made relied not only on logic but on instinct, an understanding of human adaptability that the aliens struggled to comprehend. At one point, the senior commander was struck by debris from an enemy attack. He collapsed to the floor, injured and unable to give orders. Panic surged across the bridge. Officers shouted, cadets froze, and for a moment it seemed as if chaos would take over. Lena's heart raced, but she didn't hesitate. Stepping forward, she assumed control. Her voice was calm and authoritative. "All stations, follow my orders. Defensive drones to the front and flanks. Interceptors cover escape routes. Focus fire on the largest enemy vessels first." The bridge went silent for a moment. Then slowly the officers and cadets followed her commands. Lena moved with confidence, her mind calculating trajectories, timing attacks, and predicting enemy reactions. Every decision she made turned the battle further in their favor. The enemy fleet, expecting standard protocols from the Xylarian forces, was unprepared for Lena's unconventional tactics. Ships that would have easily escaped were intercepted. Energy beams found their targets with precision, and the enemy's momentum faltered. "Human. Incredible," one of the alien officers whispered under his breath, shaking his head. The battle reached its climax. Lena noticed a group of the enemy's command ships attempting to flee. She calculated the fastest intercept route and directed the fleet with precision. Within minutes, the remaining enemy ships were either disabled or captured. The outer colonies were safe, and the Academy's fleet had suffered minimal losses. The bridge erupted in cheers, officers and cadets alike looking at Lena with awe. She felt a rush of adrenaline and relief. She had not only survived but led an entire fleet through a battle that would have overwhelmed even the most experienced officers. The senior commander, now recovered and supported by 2 assistants, looked at Lena with respect. "Human, you have proven your courage, intelligence, and leadership. Today you saved lives. You have shown the potential of your species, something many have long underestimated." Lena's heart swelled with pride. She had come to the Academy as an exchange student, someone underestimated and dismissed. Yet in the face of real danger, she had acted decisively, using human intuition, quick thinking, and adaptability to achieve victory. The aftermath of the battle was a mixture of relief and celebration. Cadets and officers gathered to discuss tactics, share stories of bravery, and analyze the engagement. Lena found herself at the center of conversations, her ideas and decisions discussed with admiration rather than skepticism. Later, alone in her quarters, Lena stared out at the stars. The battle was over, but the universe was vast, filled with unknown threats and challenges, yet she no longer felt small or powerless. She had discovered something vital. Humans, underestimated as they were, could make a real difference in the galaxy. Their adaptability, courage, and ingenuity were strengths that even advanced civilizations could not ignore. She whispered to herself, eyes fixed on the distant stars. They thought I was just a student. They thought humans were fragile and reckless. But I just led a fleet. I just saved lives. I just proved that humanity belongs here. And somewhere in the distance, enemy fleets were preparing. Lena did not know it yet, but they would return, stronger and more determined. But she was ready. She had seen the power of quick thinking, courage, and human intuition firsthand. She had learned that being underestimated could be an advantage, and she would use every bit of it to protect the galaxy. For the first time, Lena felt that she was more than just a human exchange student. She was a force to be reckoned with, a human who could lead, inspire, and change outcomes in ways that even the most advanced alien officers had never imagined. And the universe, wide and mysterious as it was, had only just begun to see the potential of humanity. The aftermath of the battle brought Lena Carter unexpected attention. Word of her decisions and quick thinking spread across the Xylarian Academy like wildfire. Cadets whispered her name in awe, and some instructors who had once doubted her now nodded respectfully when she entered the room. Yet with recognition came scrutiny. Not everyone welcomed a human stepping so far into the alien hierarchy. Lena had spent the morning reviewing the Academy's tactical simulations when a formal summons arrived. The senior commander requested her presence in his private chamber. She felt a mixture of pride and nervousness. She had never imagined being called personally by someone of such authority. The chamber was vast and austere, with glowing panels on the walls displaying galactic maps and fleet positions. The commander sat behind a high desk, fingers steepled, eyes fixed on her. "Lena Carter," he began, his tone serious. "You have demonstrated exceptional skill and courage. Your human intuition turned what could have been a disaster into a decisive victory. Your species may have abilities we have underestimated for far too long." Lena bowed respectfully. "Thank you, sir. I only did what I thought was right to protect lives." "You did more than that," he said. "You inspired others, and you showed us that humans are capable of thinking in ways our species cannot always predict. The Alliance is taking note. You will be granted an honorary officer rank for the duration of your exchange." Lena's heart leapt. This was far beyond what she had expected. She nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. "I will do my best to honor that trust, sir." "See that you do," the commander replied. "But understand this, your actions have also drawn attention. Not all within the Alliance approve of a human leading even temporarily. Some will resist and some may attempt to undermine you." Lena accepted the warning quietly. She knew there would be challenges, but she had faced doubt before. This was no different. Over the next few days, her reputation grew. Alien cadets sought her guidance during simulations. They wanted to learn her methods, observe how she approached problems, and understand her rapid decision-making. Lena patiently shared her strategies, focusing on observation, intuition, and adaptability. However, she also noticed tension among certain officers and instructors. Some looked at her with thinly veiled suspicion, questioning her every move, while others whispered to each other in strange languages she could not understand. Lena realized that her success had stirred envy and doubt, and navigating this subtle political landscape would require caution. Meanwhile, intelligence reports arrived confirming that the previous attack had been only a vanguard. A much larger enemy fleet was mobilizing, moving quickly toward the outer colonies. The Alliance prepared for the inevitable conflict. Cadets, instructors, and officers scrambled to strengthen defenses, upgrade fleet formations, and strategize for the coming battle. Lena immersed herself in the preparations. She studied alien tactics, learning their strengths and limitations. She observed the command structure and noted the predictable patterns they often followed in crisis situations. Then she combined her observations with human logic, devising strategies that were unconventional yet practical. Her suggestions were initially met with hesitation. "Human, your ideas are unorthodox," one officer said. "We cannot rely solely on instincts in a fleet this size." "Perhaps," Lena replied calmly. But instincts guided by careful observation and analysis can be faster than rigid protocol. If we wait too long, the colonies may be lost. The officer hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. The commander approved certain parts of her strategy, though many elements remained untested. Lena understood this was a challenge. She needed not only to prove the strategy's effectiveness, but also to earn the full confidence of the fleet's leaders. Despite the political tensions and skepticism, Lena found allies among the cadets. Young aliens who had witnessed her decisive actions in battle began training with her, practicing her techniques and learning to anticipate enemy maneuvers in ways she had taught them. Slowly, she began building a team that trusted her judgment, a mixture of species and skills united by respect rather than hierarchy. Late one evening, Lena sat alone in her quarters, studying the latest star charts and fleet intelligence. She could see the gravity of the upcoming conflict. The enemy fleet was larger, more organized, and better armed than anything the Academy had faced before. Casualties could be high, and mistakes could cost entire colonies. Her fingers traced the lines of enemy formations and Xylarian defenses. Thoughts raced through her mind. How to exploit weaknesses, how to minimize risk, how to protect lives without overextending the fleet. Her human perspective allowed her to see what many of the aliens overlooked. That rigidity could be a vulnerability, and flexibility could become a weapon. Humans are underestimated, she whispered to herself. Because we can adapt, we can improvise, and we can take risks others won't. And that is our strength. The next day, the Alliance fleet gathered for final briefings. Lena stood alongside senior officers, her rank insignia modest but noticeable. Some eyes lingered on her with doubt, others with admiration. She felt a mixture of pride and responsibility. The coming battle would test every skill she had learned, and her ability to lead under pressure. Cadets and officers, the commander addressed the assembly. We face a threat larger than any we have encountered in recent years. We must defend the outer colonies, protect civilians, and demonstrate that the Xylarian alliance can endure. Strategy will be critical, but so will courage, innovation, and quick thinking. Lena listened carefully. She noted how the commander emphasized protocol and structured tactics, and she compared it to her own human-inspired strategy. The two approaches were different but complementary. If coordinated carefully, they could maximize the fleet's effectiveness. During a simulation exercise immediately following the briefing, Lena suggested modifications to the fleet's positioning, targeting priorities and communication methods. Her ideas met resistance at first, but as officers ran the simulations, the results spoke for themselves. Losses were reduced and enemy effectiveness diminished. Slowly, hesitation turned into reluctant acceptance. By evening, Lena had begun forming informal teams of cadets and junior officers, sharing insights, teaching rapid decision-making under pressure, and demonstrating how human intuition could complement alien tactics. The bridge buzzed with energy, a mix of nervous anticipation and disciplined focus. Yet Lena also sensed the growing tension among higher-ranking officers. Some viewed her influence as a challenge to their authority. Meetings behind closed doors were held, and some officers openly questioned the commander's decision to allow a human such freedom. Lena realized that beyond the battles she would have to navigate the politics of trust, respect, and authority. Still, she refused to let these challenges deter her. Every doubt cast her way only strengthened her determination. She would prove that humans were not merely guests in the alliance. They were capable, resilient, and essential. That night, as Lena reviewed fleet positions and enemy intelligence, Vorin entered quietly. "Human," he said softly, "you have done more than any exchange student has ever done here. But be aware, the next battle will not forgive mistakes. Even your strategy, though brilliant, will be tested beyond what you have experienced." "I know," Lena replied. "But we will be ready. We must be ready. The colonies depend on it." Vorin studied her for a moment, his many eyes reflecting respect. "It is rare to see a species so underestimated rise to this level so quickly. The Alliance may not fully accept it yet, but the results cannot be ignored." Lena smiled faintly. "That's all I need for now. Results speak louder than words." The stars outside her viewport shimmered silently, vast and endless. Lena knew the universe held countless dangers, but she also knew that humanity had strengths the aliens often overlooked. Intuition, adaptability, courage, and the ability to inspire others in moments of crisis. The coming battle would test all of these qualities, not just in herself, but across the fleet. And Lena Carter, once just an exchange student underestimated by all, was ready to lead, to prove, and to defend. In the quiet of her quarters, she whispered one final thought. They will see what humans can do. They will learn that courage, intelligence, and adaptability are not limited by species, and I will make sure humanity is never underestimated again. The galaxy outside might be vast, mysterious, and dangerous, but Lena felt something she had never felt before. Confidence. Confidence in herself, in her human intuition, and in the possibility that one human, underestimated and small, could change the course of a conflict that spanned light years. Tomorrow, the outer colonies would call for aid. Lena would be ready, and this time she would not just influence a battle, she would lead it. The day had arrived. The outer colonies sent urgent messages across the galaxy. The enemy fleet had returned, larger, stronger, and more organized than ever. The Xylarian Academy and its allied forces mobilized immediately. Lena Carter, now officially recognized as an honorary officer, stood on the command bridge watching the holographic display of thousands of ships converging on the colonies. The air was thick with tension. Cadets, officers, and instructors moved with disciplined precision, yet fear and anticipation were visible in their expressions. Lena felt it too, but beneath the fear was determination. She had trained for this. She had prepared, studied, and learned from previous battles. Humanity had a role here, and she was ready to fulfill it. The senior commander approached, his gaze steady but measured. "Lena Carter, you have demonstrated remarkable skill. Today, you will coordinate a segment of the fleet. Your judgment will be critical." Lena nodded. "I understand, sir. I won't let anyone down." The battle began. The enemy fleet advanced with deadly efficiency. Energy beams tore through space. Explosions lit the void, and the sound of alarms reverberated across the station. The first wave of enemy ships clashed with Xylarian defenders, and casualties mounted almost immediately. Lena's mind raced as she observed the battlefield. She noticed patterns, enemy maneuvers, timing sequences, and subtle weaknesses in their formation. While the aliens relied on strict protocols, Lena's human perspective allowed her to improvise, to anticipate moves that others could not predict. "Divert the left flank to cover the colony's supply lines," she commanded, her voice calm yet firm. "Interceptors, focus on the enemy's command ships. They are coordinating the attack. Defensive drones, prepare to intercept any ships that break formation." Her orders were unconventional, but the officers and cadets trusted her judgment. They executed her commands with precision. The enemy, expecting standard tactics, was caught off guard. Several ships were disabled before they could cause significant damage, and the colony's supply lines remained intact. But the battle was far from won. A massive enemy cruiser, heavily armored and bristling with weapons, aimed directly at the heart of the Allied fleet. Standard protocols suggested a frontal assault, but Lena saw the danger. It would result in heavy losses. "Sir," she said, stepping forward, "we need to approach this differently. If we split the cruisers into two groups and draw the larger enemy vessel into a narrow passage between asteroid fields, we can trap it. Its firepower will be limited, and we can disable it without risking the fleet." The commander studied the tactical map. He hesitated, but then nodded. "Do it as you suggest, human." Lena coordinated the maneuver with precision. Ships moved with a fluidity that mirrored her own calculations, weaving between asteroids and luring the massive cruiser into the trap. Energy beams fired from concealed positions, striking the cruiser at its most vulnerable points. With a final, decisive strike, the vessel was disabled, its crew surrendering or fleeing in escape pods. The bridge erupted in cheers. Lena felt a surge of pride but did not allow herself to relax. She knew the enemy still had significant forces in the area. The battle continued for hours, a relentless series of attacks and counterattacks. Lena moved tirelessly, coordinating her fleet, predicting enemy maneuvers and adjusting tactics on the fly. Her human intuition complemented alien precision, creating a combination that the enemy could not counter. At one point, she noticed a smaller squadron attempting a stealth approach to the colony's main cities. They intended to bypass defenses and strike at civilians. Lena acted immediately. "Interceptors, engage!" Defensive drones form a protective ring around the colonies. Use predictive targeting. Anticipate their movements before they enter the cities. The squadron was intercepted before it could reach the colonies. Lives were saved. Civilians cheered from the protected zones, unaware of the danger they had narrowly avoided. Lena allowed herself a brief smile. This was why she fought, why she had learned, and why she had proven humanity's worth. The enemy commander, recognizing the tide of battle, attempted a desperate retreat. Lena noticed their formation faltering. She gave the order for a coordinated pursuit, cutting off escape routes and disabling remaining ships systematically. By the time the enemy withdrew completely, the colonies were safe, and the Xylarian Alliance fleet had suffered relatively few losses. The bridge fell silent for a moment. Officers, cadets, and instructors looked at each other, processing the scale of their victory. Then cheers erupted, loud and unrestrained. Lena felt her heart swell, not from pride, but from relief and the knowledge that lives had been saved, that humanity's contribution had been undeniable. The senior commander approached her, his eyes reflecting admiration and respect. "Lena Carter," he said, "today you have done more than any exchange student could have been expected to do. You have demonstrated courage, ingenuity, and leadership. You have shown the Alliance and the galaxy that humanity is not to be underestimated." Lena shook her head, trying to stay humble. "I only did what I had to do. I learned from observation, intuition, and what I know humans can do. The real credit goes to everyone who followed the orders and fought alongside me." The commander smiled. "Then consider this a promise. Humans will no longer be seen as outsiders or weaklings. Today they earned their place among the Alliance's defenders." Across the fleet, the alien cadets and officers began to look at humans differently. The whispers of doubt were replaced by curiosity and respect. Lena's fellow human students, watching from Earth communications and simulation channels, cheered quietly for their representative, proud that a human had led in a galactic-scale battle. After the battle, the colonies sent messages of gratitude, and leaders from multiple species praised the decisive actions of the Alliance fleet. Lena was summoned once more by the senior commander, this time for formal recognition. "You have done humanity proud," he said, handing her a ceremonial badge of the Alliance. "Your species has proven its worth, not only as allies but as capable leaders in the most critical moments. Never forget this. Courage, intuition, and adaptability can turn the tide of events when technology alone is not enough." Lena accepted the badge, feeling a profound sense of accomplishment. It was not just a symbol. It was recognition that humanity had a place in the galaxy, a species underestimated no longer. Later, in the quiet of her quarters, Lena gazed out at the stars. The battle was over, but the galaxy remained vast, mysterious, and filled with challenges. She knew there would be more conflicts, more threats, and more opportunities to prove that humanity's strength lay not only in its technology, but in its mind, its heart, and its courage. She whispered to herself, determination firm in her voice. "We are underestimated. We are overlooked. But humanity adapts, humans endure, and humans lead. And I will make sure the galaxy never doubts us again." The stars glittered silently, a reminder of the endless possibilities, dangers, and adventures yet to come. Lena felt ready, more confident than ever. She was no longer just an exchange student. She was a leader, a human among the galaxy's greatest minds, and a symbol of what her species could achieve. And somewhere beyond the horizon, other civilizations watched and learned the same lesson. Never underestimate a human. Lena smiled faintly, knowing that humanity's story in the galaxy was just beginning, and that she, a single young human, had helped write its first remarkable chapter.